everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast Beautiful You. I'm your host Avantika. Today we have a very special guest with us. Terry Tucker is a motivational speaker, author, and an international podcast guest, and he speaks on topics of mindset, motivation, and self-development. In his professional career, he has been a marketing executive, a hospital administrator, a SWAT team hostage negotiator, a high school basketball coach, a business owner, and for the past 11 years, a cancer warrior. He is also an author of the book Sustainable Excellence 10 Principles to Leading You, Uncommon and Extraordinary Life. Basically, he has done it all. You name it, he has done it. Welcome to the podcast, Terry. I'm so happy to have you here. You guys know I advocate for therapy all the time. Beautiful You encourages you to seek the right professional help and care for you. This is where Amaha comes in. Amaha is a mental health care organization offering scientifically driven and evidence-based high-quality care through therapy, psychiatry, their community support, and self-care app. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, or any other severe condition, Amaha has about 140 plus psychologists and psychiatrists working to support you. You can access therapy and psychiatry services online as well as in person through their centers in Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai. Beautiful You listeners get a special discount. Use the code BY50 to get 50% off your first session with Amaha. Just download their app. It's called Amaha, AMAHA, or visit their website to book your first session with Amaha. And if you know someone who is struggling with mental health, share the love and the discount. Let's make mental health care accessible for everyone together. Invest in your mental health. You deserve it.
Avantika, thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to talking with you today.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
That's amazing. So to begin with, you had talked about your 4 truths, right? So to the audience who aren't familiar with your work, could you tell us a bit about what your 4 important truths of life are?
Yeah, these are truths that, as you mentioned, I've been battling cancer now for well over a decade. And I think I've learned these truths throughout my life, but I think they've sort of crystallized in the last decade, a little more than a decade. And I have them on a Post-it note right here in my office. So I see them constantly. And so they're constantly getting reinforced in my mind. So here they are. The first one is control your mind, or your mind is going to control you. Mm-hmm. The second one is embrace the pain and the difficulty that we all experience in life and use that pain and difficulty to make you a stronger and more resilient individual. The third one I look at as kind of a legacy type of truth, and it's this: what you leave behind is what you weave in the hearts of other people. And then the fourth one I think is pretty self-explanatory. It's as long as you don't quit, you can never be defeated. And I look at these 4 truths kind of, I call them the bedrock of my soul. They're, I think, just a good place to try to start to build a quality life off of.
That's amazing. I love the 4 truths. I especially resonate with the second one, where it's like embrace the difficulty and the pain that you experience, because everyone goes through difficult times, right? So you always like somehow, and it makes you feel so uncomfortable and you want to just get past it as soon as possible, but there is really no shortcut to it. You can't skip your way through it. You have to go through it. So might as well just embrace the pain that you are experiencing and use the pain to make yourself stronger and more resilient. So that is the one that I most resonate with. I love the 4 truths. How did you come across them? Was it your cancer incident that helped you build those truths, or were there any other phases in your life that solidified it?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I was on a podcast called My 3 Truths, and I figured, well, I better have truths in some way. And like I said, I used to have just 3. Yeah. And then the more I thought about it, we like things to come in 3, ABC, 1, 2, 3, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I mean, we like 3s, but I really felt compelled to add the 4th one. And the 4th one is the 3rd one that I gave you about leaving a legacy, because I just think it's incredibly important. I don't think people, especially younger people, they don't think about the end of their life. They don't think about dying and how their life leads up to that point And then once they're gone, what do they leave behind? So I was really literally on a podcast and came up with what I felt were things that were important. I mean, these are things that I live with every day. I make decisions based on these truths and things
Yeah.
like that. So they're not just something I pulled out of the air. They're things that really resonate with me, things that I guess are really in my heart, in my soul, so to speak.
Ah, I love that. So I want to talk about the mindset because clearly battling with cancer for 11 years, that's an insane amount of time. And you had mentioned that there was an amputation of your foot and in 2018 and then amputation of your leg in 2020. So it's been clearly a long journey. And to come out of something so terminal, your mindset plays a huge role in it. So I wanted to dwell into that. What are certain things that help you keep going? What was your initial reaction to getting the cancer diagnosis, and how did you find the courage to keep going despite all the difficulties that you faced?
Yeah, that's a great question. Back in 2012, I was a girls' high school basketball coach here in the United States, and I had a callus that broke open on the bottom of my foot. Initially, did not think much of it because as a coach, you're on your feet a lot. But
Mhm.
after a few weeks of it not healing, I made an appointment and went to see a podiatrist, a foot doctor friend of mine. And
Mhm.
he took an X-ray and he said, "Terry, I think you have a cyst in there and I can cut it out." And he did. And he showed it to me. It was just a little gelatin sac with some white fat in it, no dark spots, no blood, nothing that gave either one of us concern. But fortunately or unfortunately, he sent it off to pathology to have it looked at. And then 2 weeks later, I received the call from him. And as I said, he was a friend of mine. And the
Mhm.
more difficulty he was having explaining to me what was going on, the more frightened I was becoming until finally he just laid it out in front of me. He said, "Terry, I've been a doctor for 25 years and I have never seen the form of cancer that you have. I have a very rare form of melanoma." And so when I was diagnosed, I was told if I was lucky, I would live 5 years, but more than likely, I would be dead in 2 years. And so I was given a death sentence. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, maybe I can turn that death sentence into a life sentence. And that's what I've been doing. And I think I went through all the stages that we would associate with grief. Initially it was denial. I can't possibly have cancer. I've done everything right in my life. And then you kind of move to anger. I
Mhm.
can't have cancer. I've done everything right in my life. And then you get to our daughter was in high school at the time. It was a bargaining kind of with God. It's like, hey, just let me live long enough to see my daughter graduate from high school. And then I absolutely got down. I got depressed. And then I just got to a point where I don't like the cards that I've been dealt, but I'm going to have to play these cards to the best of my ability. And I made a decision very early on that I was never going to take out my misfortune on a doctor, on a nurse, on a therapist, on somebody that was trying to help me to either treat the cancer or to get better. I was never going to, I was having a bad day and I'm going to take it out on them. And I haven't. I really haven't. I've really tried very hard to say, you know what, we're in a partnership here. This isn't, I don't get to use you as a punching bag because I'm having a bad day. And I've seen a lot of patients, a lot of people over these years that have done that just they're mean, they're upset, they're angry, and they take it out on other people. And I think it's a conscious decision that you can do that, but I think it's also a conscious decision that you don't have to do that.
Mm. No, I absolutely love that. It's you end up projecting so many of your anger and frustrations onto others who are just really, really there to trying to help you come out of it. And it's like you said, there are just certain sometimes life deals you with certain cards that you don't like, and then it's up to you and how you um, deal with it. That is again something that I resonate with. I growing up, I had a very difficult childhood because of some personal issues going on in my family. So I've always like, and because of the trauma that I went through, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2 when I was 17. And when I got the diagnosis, it felt like a death sentence to me as well, because it's like, this is something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life. I don't know how long I'm going to live, but like, even if I live to like 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever, I will have to deal with something, basically a severe condition like that. So I get that. Like even today there are days when I get very frustrated living with it. But I just have to remind myself that these are the cards that I've been dealt with. Now it's up to me on how I want to play it. So I really resonate with what you said out there. So what are like certain fundamental values or thought patterns that help you get through such a difficult time?
Yeah, I call when I call my three F's, which are faith, family, and friends. I have
Mhm.
a very strong faith in God that helps me get through this. When I was, as I mentioned, when I was diagnosed, I was given a death sentence. They did not have any treatments for my type of cancer other than surgery. And so they put me on this drug called interferon, which I took a weekly injection of this drug. And the side effects of the interferon were that it gave me severe flu like symptoms for 2 to 3 days every week after each injection. And I took those weekly injections for almost 5 years. So imagine having a bad case of the flu every week for 5 years. And as I said, that was not a cure. My oncologist used to describe it as we're trying to kick the can down the road and just buy you more time for additional therapies to become available. And I remember during that time, I was so sick of being sick that I literally prayed to die. I kind of felt there was that camp of, of living and then dying. And I felt I was in that not dying stage. I had no goals. I was not working. I was literally trying to survive from one day to the next. That's all I was doing. I've just got to get through today.
Mhm.
Tomorrow I'll worry about tomorrow because I may not make it till tomorrow. And so I prayed to die. And I don't get me wrong, I never contemplated suicide or anything like that. I said, God, I'm not contributing in any way to life. Why don't you just take me out of this? But he didn't. But what he did do, I believe, is give me the strength to go on. And I'll never forget when I eventually had my leg amputated and I found out I had these tumors in my lungs, which I'm still being treated for. My doctor, about 6 months later, showed me the CAT scan.
Mhm.
And I have no medical background. I don't know how to read a CAT scan,
Yeah.
but you can kind of look at it and say, well, that sure doesn't belong there. I mean, I had these big tumors in my lungs. I had fluid all around the pleural spaces around my lungs. And I remember looking at my doctor and saying, how was I alive?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this. He put his head down, he shook his head no, and then he looked up at me and he said, I don't know because you shouldn't have been, which said to me that God's not done with me yet. When I die, where I die, how I die. I kind of joke about it, way above my pay grade. Don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. So faith is a big part of it. Family has been a huge part of it as well. And
Mhm.
then the friends that I have that have been with me through this journey, those are the things that get me through this ugliness and this misery sometimes.
I love that. I'm glad that you have a strong enough support system to keep you going with that. The three F's, the four truths. I can genuinely see such a great mindset shift in you. So, they're like, since you have dwelled into a lot of professions, by any chance, do you think being part of, because you have been a SWOT negotiator as well, so being in such tough professions, do you think maybe your professions might play a role in your mindset today?
Yes, I absolutely do. You can't tell this from looking at me, but I'm 6'8" tall,
Oh,
and I
wow.
actually went to college on a basketball scholarship. And I started playing basketball when I was 9 years old, and I
Mhm.
played all the way up until I graduated from college when I was 21. And one of the things that team sports, and for me it was sports, I think it can be whatever team that you're on, and we're all on teams, whether it's our family, our colleagues, our friends, whatever that ends up being, is what team sports taught me was the importance of being part of something that's bigger than yourself. You realize on a team that if you don't do your job, not only do you let yourself down, but you let your teammates down, your coaches down, your fans down, your parents down, etc. And if you think about it, the biggest team game that we all play is this game of life. So yeah, I mean it's I've been very fortunate. I've learned things. I've had good mentors. I've had good friends. I've had people that have guided me in the right direction. And, whenever, especially when I speak to young people, I always tell them, if you remember nothing else that I say, remember this: where you go in your life, whether you're successful, whether you're a dropout, a flunky, whatever you end up being, really is going to depend on the 5 people that you hang around with.
That is,
If you hang around with people that are smart, that are intelligent, that are curious, that are that want to go places, that want to be successful in life, then you'll be like that.
yeah,
Whereas if you hang out with people that life is all about them, there's a lot of drama in their life, there's a lot of negativity, then you'll end up being like that as well. So be very careful. I mean, it's your life, and the people you hang around with shape it, whether you realize it or not. They shape it immeasurably. And well, oh, it's just me. It's not you. It's the people you hang around with. So be very careful who you hang around with. Hang out with good people. Stay away from the people that it's all about drama.
no, I love that. It's about you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely agreed. Your environment plays a huge role into your, into your shaping up into your personality, and it influences you to a greater deal than I think most people realize. So,
Right.
100% agree with you on that. So, you are also a father, right?
I
Of
am.
2, I think, or one.
One.
Oh,
One daughter.
$1. That's so cool. So, how has going, because parenthood is difficult as it is, handling your career is difficult as it is. So, like, how did you navigate being a father while also being a cancer warrior?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's kind of funny because if you look at my life, I have 2 brothers. I have no sisters.
Mhm.
My high school was an all boys Catholic high school in Chicago, a very large city. When I went to college, I went to an all male military college. So
Wow.
I think it's kind of God's way of saying, you're going to have a daughter. I remember when my wife was pregnant and we went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Do you want to know the sex of the baby?" And we were both excited. It's like, "Yeah, sure." And the doctor said, "Well, you should buy pink." And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. You need to leave it in there till it's done. I have no idea how to deal with a girl at all." But my daughter and I are probably closer than any father daughter, father son that I know. I mean, we love each other. We talk all the time. We bounce things off each other. So, like I said, when she was in high school when I was diagnosed, I never expected to be here for the things that I've got to experience with her. And I think that's an important point. A lot of times doctors will tell you, okay, you've got, this kind of cancer and it's in this stage. And
Mhm.
based on your age and your overall health and the stage of your cancer, they'll give you, oh, you'll be dead in 2 years, or you'll be dead in 10 years or 20, whatever it ends up being. They give you a number. And I've always found that what the doctors don't know and what they can't factor into that number is they don't know that you're going to be here to see your child graduate from high school, or you're going to be here to watch your granddaughter walk down the aisle this summer, or whatever it ends up being. The doctors know medicine, but they don't know your heart, they don't know your mind, and they don't know your soul. And those are the things that rule your life. They rule your body. Your brain rules your body. So I always dismiss what doctor, they told me I'd be dead in 2 years. It's been almost 12 years now, 2012 to 2024. So it's been almost 12 years. So don't think that because some doctor tells you something that you just, you got to go out and buy a cemetery plot, or, make arrangements for your cremation, and that's going to be the end of your life. You have a lot more control over that. And I knew there were things I wanted to do with my daughter. I wanted to coach her in basketball. I wanted to see her graduate from college. I wanted to walk her down the aisle at her wedding. And I've been able to do all those things. So, I
That's
mean, I
so
feel incredibly grateful, incredibly lucky that I've been able to do that.
Mhm.
And like I said, every night when I go to sleep, I thank God because I have that opportunity.
That is so wonderful. I love that so much for you. So, what habits do you currently have that helps you keep going in just everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of things. Some of them people might consider kind of goofy, but I do things that work for me. I have a breathing practice that I do, and that helps me when I speak. That helps me whether I do podcasts or whether I speak in person, having breath because I'm in a wheelchair, and I can't. I mean, I can stand up, but not for any appreciable length of time because I only have one leg. And so I work on my breathing. I'm very careful about what I eat. I try to eat more keto and things like that. I pray for at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours every day, just for the number of people that I've have been exposed to that have cancer, whether it's neighbors or friends or people I've been on podcasts with that have reached out to me. So those are all things that I do. I try to work out, I do some modified push-ups and things like that every day. And then I always do at least one thing every day. And this is where controlling your mind and embracing the pain and that kind of thing comes in. I always recommend people do this every day. Do one thing that makes you nervous, that makes you uncomfortable, that scares you, that's potentially embarrassing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. But
Mhm.
if you do those small things every day, when the big disasters in life hit us, and they hit all of us, as you just mentioned, we lose our job, somebody close to us dies, we find out we have a chronic or a terminal illness, so resilient to handle those things than the people who never do anything that's uncomfortable. So do uncomfortable things every day. And it's not hard. You get up in the morning. I don't want to make the bed. Oh, I don't want to eat a good breakfast. I don't want to study for that test. I don't want to get off the couch and go to the gym and work out. Get off the couch and go to the gym. Just do the things you don't want to do, and you'll be so much more resilient.
Ah, I love that. It's always about chasing the discomfort and being comfortable with the discomfort. And that's where you grow. I strongly, genuinely believe that you can't grow when you're comfortable. So even if, like, no one likes waking up from the comfort of their bed and hitting the gym. But if you have certain fitness goals and stuff like that, you need to do that. You need to not give in to your thoughts. There's this one thing that I believe that over the course of my journey with mental health, I realized that your feelings don't have to dictate your thoughts and feelings don't have to dictate your actions. So, for example, if you feel lazy about something or you don't want to do something, it's like, okay, so what? Just because you feel like not doing it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Despite, like, you can feel a certain way and still act the other way that serves you in the right direction. So it's honestly all about how much power you give to your thoughts and feelings, and how much you let it control you. One of your truths, like, control your mind or it will control you. I really
You're
said,
right.
yeah. So it's been 11 years. What advice would you give to yourself starting at the journey when you had got that phone call with your friend, who gave you the diagnosis? What advice would you give to your younger self?
I guess I would say this, and let me preface it by saying this before I tell you what I was going to tell you. Um, I think we all have a breaking point. Somewhere down the road, there's a point where I just can't do this anymore. But that breaking point is so much further down the road than we ever give ourselves credit for. And I'll give you a story. This happened back in the 1950s here in the United States at Johns Hopkins University. And
Mhm.
there was a professor who did a very simple experiment with rats. He took rats and he put them in a tank of water that was over their head. And he wanted to see how long the average rat would tread water before it would sink and drown. And the average rat treaded water for about 15 minutes. And just as those rats were getting ready to sink and drown, he reached in, grabbed them, pulled them out, dried them off, and let them rest for a while. And then he took the exact same rats and put them back in that exact same tank of water.
Mhm.
And the second time around, on average, those rats treaded water for 60 hours.
Wow.
Now think about that. The first time, 15 minutes. It's not like you're going to flunk a test or your business is going to go under or something like that. You're going to die. Your life is going to be over. The second time around, 60 hours, which taught me two things. Number one, the importance of hope in our lives. That if we know we're doing the right thing, maybe not today, maybe not this month, maybe not even this year, but at some point in time, if we know we're doing the right things, we'll probably get to where we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing it taught me was just how much more our physical bodies can handle than we ever thought they could. Like I said, we give up, we quit, we give in long before our physical bodies do. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about before, controlling your mind. If you don't control your mind is going to be, oh, this hurts. Oh, this is uncomfortable. I'm done. And you'll quit and you'll stop and you'll give up. And it doesn't have to be just with cancer or a disease. It'll be anything in your life. You know, I want to start a company, or I want to get an A on this test. Oh, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to study anymore. I don't want to do what I need to do to make this company successful. And you'll quit and you'll give up. But the last thing I'll say about this is this. We just don't quit. Now we've got to blame somebody. You know, we want to blame our parents or our boss or our station in life. Very few people take personal responsibility for their own success and happiness. And I think that's a really important point. You know, if we don't get something, we don't say, oh, what, you know what, I could have worked harder, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. No, we're going to blame somebody else. Stop blaming people. Take responsibility for where you want to be in life and go out there and make it happen.
I agree. Oh my God, that is so important. I really thought that it would be like 15 would be lesser the second time and then experiment, but I'm so glad that the outcome was very different. 60 hours, that's insane. Wow.
It
So
is. It's crazy.
it is, yeah. So what's your advice for someone who has been diagnosed with cancer or something terminal?
I would tell them to take a breath, to relax for a minute and not get all excited. You know, I've learned some things from cancer. I've learned that you never know yourself until you've been tested by some form of adversity in your life. And the second thing cancer's taught me is really, it's made me a better human being. It's made me appreciate the things that are important. You know, I was an athlete, I was a police officer, I was on the SWAT team, I did a lot of active things in my life. And when you can't do what you're good at, you start to do what's important. And I think that's where I've come in my life. So I know it's scary. I know you're worried, but take a breath and come up with a plan with your doctor, with your family, with your friends, and then execute that plan. Worrying about it is not going to help you. It's not going to make you live another minute longer. It's not going to make any pain go away. It's not going to make the cancer go away. Figure out what the plan is and implement the plan and see where that takes you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, is there, before we come towards the end of the episode, is there anything that I missed out on that you would like to talk about?
No, you were great. I enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. Where can people find you?
I have a blog called Motivational Check, and that's motivationalcheck.com. You can leave me a message there, and I'll get back to you.
All right, I'll be linking all his the website down below in the description in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. I had a lot of fun today talking with you, and I'm so proud of you. Like, I can feel so much closer because there are so many things that you talked about that I truly, truly resonate with, and it's just it makes me feel very grateful that people like you exist and that you're out there spreading the message that you do, doing the work that you're doing, because this is so crucial. And I genuinely hope this reaches out to the person who needs the hope and who needs the, who needs the hope to like survive their journey as well. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
Perfect. So yeah, thank you so much to the listeners who stick through to the end. I had a lot of fun talking with Terry. If you want to get back to us, do leave us. If you're watching this on YouTube, do let us know what resonated with you the most. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can reach us out on Instagram. Our email, everything will be linked in the show notes in the description of the episode. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I love you. Bye.